Netflix and Prime have both quietly stacked some genuinely great, genuinely recent horror into their libraries, and then just never told anybody. No banner, no push, nothing. Meanwhile, the internet's still running the same 5 best horror on Netflix list from 2019. So today, I want to walk you through 10 horror movies from the last couple years that are sitting right there on these platforms and just not getting watched. Quick heads up before we start. This list mixes English and non-English titles, so for a few of these you'll need to read subtitles. If that's not your thing, feel free to skip around. I'll make sure it's clear which is which. I'll tell you why each one probably slipped past you and why I think it's worth fixing that tonight. Okay, let's get into it.
I need you to help me. Let me show you my kingdom.
How do we get—
I want to start with a movie I think a lot of people wrote off before even watching a trailer, just because of what it is on paper. A Spanish-language, stop-motion, horror-adjacent film out of Mexico. That's a lot of reasons for a casual viewer to scroll past. But here's the thing. This is Mexico's first ever feature-length stop-motion film, and it looks like it. Every frame has this handmade, slightly janky quality where you can genuinely feel real hands built the world instead of a render farm. Guillermo del Toro mentored this project, and you can feel his fingerprints in the gothic, twisted production design without it ever feeling like a copy of his work. The story follows a frustrated writer who turns into a ghost and gets pulled into her own dark fictional world to fix the chaos she accidentally created. Which sounds simple, until you realize the film is actually about the terror of committing to a creative vision nobody else believes in yet. It gets a little overstuffed with lore in the back half, and I didn't care even a little because visually and emotionally it's operating on a different level than most horror released this year. The movie's called I Am FRANKELDA. Now, my next pick I think got buried simply because it's subtitled and it's genuinely hard to describe without spoiling it, which makes for a rough elevator pitch. It's a Korean film about exorcists, a legendary geomancer, and a family curse, and it starts as a fairly grounded ghost story. About an hour in, it completely swerves into something you will not see coming. I'm not gonna spoil it, I won't even hint at it, just know the movie you think you're watching by the halfway mark is not the movie you're actually watching. What makes it hit so hard is how it braids Korean folklore with real, painful history, occupation, division, generational guilt, into something that's part ghost story, part monster movie, part quiet gut punch. The cinematography is stunning, the effects hold up, and it trusts its audience enough to sit with discomfort instead of just throwing jump scares at you. If you only watch one movie off this list, I'd point you here first. The movie is called EXHUMA.
Ebony, get back.
Now, this one I think got lost simply because it got lumped in with the endless pile of another Netflix horror movie content, when it's actually got a lot more going on than that label suggests. Lee Daniels directs, and it starts as a legitimate gut punch family drama before deciding about halfway through that it's also going to be an exorcism movie. Andra Day is carrying real weight here. A single mom, sobriety struggles, a sick mother, 3 kids who need her to hold it together, and for a solid stretch, distinct plays like prestige drama. Then Glenn Close shows up doing the most Glenn Close things a human being can do on camera, and I'm honestly not mad about it. The issue is once the film fully commits to the supernatural angle, it loses the thing that made it interesting in the first place. The real life stuff, addiction, grief, a system failing a family that's already drowning, was scarier than any special effect they throw at you later. But the performances alone make this worth your time. The movie is called Deliverance.
What's up?
My next pick got skipped, I think, because horror rom-com is a genre label that scares off both horror fans and rom-com fans at the same time, which is a shame because this one earns the hybrid. Our lead just finished cancer treatment, immediately gets dumped, and then loses the lead role she was promised to her ex's new girlfriend. So she retreats to her childhood home, only to find her actual childhood monster squatting in the basement and refusing to leave. And here's a twist. He might genuinely be the healthiest relationship in her life right now. The bickering to tenderness dynamic between these two is funnier and sweeter than most straight rom-coms manage, and Melissa Barrera is doing career best work balancing heartbreak with dark comedy without either one undercutting the other. It builds to an ending with blood, a musical number, and a payoff that feels earned rather than cheap. This has cult classic written all over it. The movie is called Your Monster. Now this next one I think just never got a real push outside Thailand, even though it absolutely deserved one, because it's the sequel to the country's biggest horror hit in years, and most people here never saw the original in the first place. We've got a supernatural hunter avenging his sister, a squad that plays like monster hunters crashing into a jungle survival movie, a wedding that gets violently interrupted, and the werecat situation happening somewhere in the background. It should not work. It barely works. I loved almost every second of it. The CGI is rough in spots, the score is doing the most at full volume whether the scene needs it or not, and the plot occasionally forgets itself just to get to the next set piece. But there's a specific joy in watching a movie throw this many ideas at the wall with zero self-consciousness and just commit. It outgrows several major international releases in its whole country, and once you watch it, you get why. The movie is called Death Whisperer 2. Real quick, we're about halfway through this list, and if you're getting something out of it, hitting subscribe genuinely helps more than you think. It tells the algorithm you want more of this kind of recommendation, and it costs you nothing. Alright, back to it.
Listen, you little freaks!
Now this next pick got skipped almost entirely because of where and how it was released. Quiet, limited, mostly word of mouth, which is a real shame because it might be the most fun movie on this whole list. A bored office guy stuck in the most beige marriage and cubicle life imaginable sees a late-night infomercial for something called FRANKIE, and because he's an idiot, calls the number. He wakes up in a destroyed house with 3 rubber-suited goblins insisting he had the time of his life the night before, which he does not remember at all. This is not scary, let's be clear about that. It's unhinged, retro creature comedy, practical effects drenched chaos from a filmmaker who clearly grew up loving 80s monster movies and just decided to make one himself. The goblin designs are gross and lovable at once, and there's a minecart chase that had me laughing alone on my couch like an idiot. If you're burned out on serious elevated horror, this is the exact palate cleanser you need. The movie is called FRANKIE. Now I think this next one got overlooked for a pretty understandable reason. It asks for patience most casual viewers just aren't going to give it, at least not until the reviews catch up. It's directed by Joko Anwar, a guy who basically doesn't know how to make a boring frame. The film follows a woman trying to disprove the idea of grave torture, the belief that sinners suffer after death, by hunting down the most rotten person she can find while her own past keeps clawing back at her. It jumps timelines, it jumps tone, and it throws a dozen plot threads at you almost like it's testing how much you can juggle. When Anwar finally lets the horror off the leash in the third act, it's disgusting in the best possible way. Flesh doing things flesh shouldn't do. Sound design that gets under your skin before anything even happens on screen. Getting there takes some wandering, and a few of the subplots never fully pay off. But if you've got the patience, the payoff is genuinely nasty and satisfying, and visually it's a feast. Nobody blends religion and body horror quite like this guy. The movie is called Grave Torture.
That's how it's done. Watch and learn.
I'm leaving to be head chef at my own restaurant.
Now my next pick I think suffered from a pretty generic title and a quiet Amazon drop, which is unfortunate because the concept alone deserved more attention than it got. Ariana DeBose plays a chef who ditches the fancy restaurant grind to open her own place out in the middle of nowhere. Except the land she builds on comes with extra tenants. Ghostly bugs, food rotting in real time, shadows doing things shadows shouldn't do. The pitch is hot cuisine meets haunted soil, a menu built from something ancient and hungry. And when it leans into that food as magic idea, it's genuinely cool, almost like a cooking show crossed with a seance. My honest gripe is the movie keeps flinching. Every time it should go feral, it steps back and plays it safe, so the scares never quite land and the dreads never fully builds. DeBose is doing big emotional work in scenes that haven't always earned it yet. Still, worth a watch for the concept and for her commitment to a script that doesn't always meet her halfway. Just don't expect nightmares. The movie is called House of Spoils. Now this next one I think just got lost in the shuffle because it's a foreign language zombie movie competing for attention against a wall of big budget American zombie content. And on paper, that's a fight it's not gonna win. It's Spanish and it actually remembers zombie movies used to be about people first. Our lead is a lawyer who just wants to be left alone with his grief and instead gets front row seats to society falling apart. The first half is genuinely great. Quiet, tense, almost survivalist, watching one guy build a blockade out of pure paranoia and instinct while the world outside goes to hell. Where it stumbles is budget. Once the story widens out to show you the bigger apocalypse, the effects thin out and the side characters get more cardboard. But I'll give it this, it never tries to out-spectacle the big American zombie epics, and that restraint actually works in its favor. This is a small, personal story wearing a zombie movie's clothes, and for at least half the runtime, it earns every bit of your attention. The movie is called Apocalypse Z, the beginning of the end.
No family, no friends, no connections to anyone.
And this is the one I saved for last, because out of everything on this list, it's the one I think about the most, and I genuinely believe it deserved a far bigger audience than a quiet Irish indie release ever got it. The setup traps 7 broke, desperate people inside a sterile clinical trial facility and slowly turns paranoia into a weapon. It's basically an Agatha Christie whodunit handed over to a body horror director and told to go wild. And even that description undersells how claustrophobic this actually gets. Nobody can leave, nobody can call for help, and the drug they're all testing starts doing something to their brains that makes staying awake feel like the only thing standing between them and dying. What I love here is how mean the movie is about who gets picked for trials like this. People with nothing left to lose, easy to overlook if something goes wrong. That's baked into every uncomfortable interaction in this facility. Trust falls apart fast, hallucinations blur what's real, and the cast sells every ounce of dread without ever needing a jump scare to do it. It's tight, it's smart, and it earns its tension the hard way. If you watch nothing else off this list, this is the one. The movie is called Double Blind. I've got an HBO Max crime thriller with maybe the best twist ending I've seen in years, plus 9 more underrated picks right behind it. If you got something out of this one, subscribing genuinely helped the channel keep finding movies like these. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.